I didn't know if I was watching ESPN on Thursday night or TMZ. Guys are getting drafted, including Cam Ward at number 1 overall, but the only player they mentioned the entire first round was Shador.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, and shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes, and today's episode is proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On this loaded episode, we'll talk about Syracuse finding another quarterback despite naming a starter during spring. However, I think I give credit to Fran Brown. If you see an upgrade available, you go and get that upgrade, and that's exactly what he did with Steve Angeli. Unfortunately, the ACC only had 2 players selected so far. It's going to be a lot more on Friday night, but we hit the under last night, Kenton. And, okay, obviously I'm a little bit biased on this one for, how much I admire Cam Ward, having covered him for the past year, Kenton. But I don't know if I can recall another NFL draft where the coverage kind of disrespects the first overall pick so much. And there were different options, right? NFL Network, ABC might have done a better job, but I thought ESPN really did Cam Ward dirty, because in the minutes that Tennessee was on the clock, all Mel Kiper is talking about is how Shador Sanders is better than Cam Ward, and he's the best quarterback available. And then Cam Ward gets drafted, and then they immediately start talking about Travis Hunter and don't even do an onstage interview with Ward. Like, I really thought the TMZ style coverage, I thought, was disrespectful to the number 1 pick.
Well, it was disrespectful to the number 1 pick. And again, it's quite frankly why, it's getting so hard out here for guys like you and me in the sports media world, because they're not doing what they should do by ball players. To respect a game and to grow a game, to push the game forward, you don't need narratives. You need ball. That's what does it. It's not, we're, with all due respect, we're talking about all the off the field stuff. We're talking about interviews and who did what in their interviews and who did, what you talk about when you talk Cam Ward? An amazing Heisman candidate, Heisman finalist season. That's what you talk about. That's it. You talk about a season that ended him up in New York. That's what you talk about. You don't talk about what did Cam say in those interviews to these GMs you don't talk about that. You talk about ball, because that's what he has shown. That's how he's proven that he's proficient. Now, is there an argument? Is there something to talk about on the back end in terms of, hey, Shador didn't go first round. What happened? A guy that was mocked going top 5 all of 1 month ago, all of a sudden slips out of the first round. But you talk about that on the back end. You don't make it the full story, the full coverage of the first round. You don't make it we're not going to interview the number 1 draft pick, which, by the way, of all the stories in all the recent draft lines and draft history ever, how many are better? How many are more impactful? We have not seen a first no-star recruit. None. Not 1 star. Not 2 star. Not, he was a 3-star that had some big offers, not a ton, but he had a couple. No star. No FBS offers. Not even UTSA. Not even the Roadrunners thought he was good enough. And lo and behold, that young man becomes the first overall pick, and you pay him dust for that? Absolute insanity.
Yeah, I mean, it was a clear example of, choosing to tell, I guess, more of a negative story. And actually, you and I, we both really like Shador Sanders. In fact, I thought he could have or maybe should have been drafted, where Jackson Dart was drafted, right? So I don't want to make this an anti-Shador thing. I'm saying the media chose to, instead of telling the amazing story of 0-star recruit to number 1 pick of Cam Ward, they chose to dwell on, hey, there's been a lot of drama Anonymous assistant coaches have been talking badly about Shador. Is he going to get taken? How far is he going to fall? And they probably love the fact that he fell out of the first round because they could still keep talking about it today. So instead of telling like a positive story about where Cam Ward has come from and now where he is, they chose to tell a negative narrative. That was what they chose to dwell on last night. But I will say, though, that, despite certain outlets not telling that story, I give a lot of credit, Kenton, to the ACC. And, of course, they're clinging to whatever they can because they only had 2 guys taken in the first round. But Cam Ward became only the 4th player in the history of this conference to get taken number 1 overall. And I thought the ACC on their social media channels and on their website, and I would assume on their original programming on Friday. I haven't gotten a chance to watch a lot of that yet today, but I would assume that the ACC has been continuing to give Cam Ward positive and inclusive, all encompassing coverage is the word that I'm looking for. Because I thought on their social media channels, I thought the ACC did a really good job of putting his highlight reel out there, putting original videos out there, and really celebrating the Cam Ward pick. So shout out to Jim Phillips. We don't often say that on the show, but shout out to Jim and the crew for pumping up Cam Ward last night.
Absolutely. We're going to give you your love when you do something right. And they absolutely did something right. Whoever the social media admin is there, hey, hell of a job. You knocked it out of the ballpark because, again, this is a story of ridiculous magnitude, regardless of what conference you're from. Regardless. When some of the highest paid guys I know are doing this are allegedly making a couple $100,000 a year to follow these high school kids around, go to the camps, go do all that. Making a couple $100 bands, okay? And they missed. Everybody missed. Everyone was like, who's this kid? Who's he? What's going on here? Even after he left Incarnate Word, it wasn't even like people were like, oh, he's definitely a first rounder. Even after he left Washington State.
Yeah.
Even after he left Washington State, people were saying, oh, that's a consensus first rounder. Nobody was saying that. He works his way and develops his way into being not only a first round pick, but the top overall pick. And again, the ACC, this is why we give you your love when you do something right. We whack you when you do something wrong. We're going to give you whatever you deserve. And in this moment, you deserve great love and appreciation for paying the proper adulation and respect to an accomplishment that is quite literally in the over 1 century long history of the NFL, first time in terms, I'm sure that there have been other guys who've come from unheralded first round pick. But since we're talking about the recruiting side specifically, first time in about 20, 30 years since those things have been major that this has happened. So, the ACC did a great job of covering it. Shout out to the ACC social media team for that.
Now, what kind of an immediate impact do you think Ward is going to have with the Tennessee Titans? I was on a couple of Titan shows over the last couple days, and obviously, they want to get the scoops on the good and the bad, and of course, with Ward, it's mostly all good, right? To be a Heisman finalist and the first overall pick. And the question would come up like, hey, like what would happen if Ward was going to be a bust or not work out with the Titans? And in my humble opinion, Kenton, if Cam Ward, and I don't expect this to happen, if he were to become a bust or a guy who doesn't live up to first round pick status, I think that would probably say more about the Titans organization and what they do around the quarterback spot than it would say about him. Obviously, to get to this point, you've got to have the physical tools. You have to have the arm capable of making every throw. Ward is also athletic, can extend plays, can scramble if need be. But to me, I think what is going to make Cam Ward, at least everything that's in his control, what's going to make him a successful professional quarterback is, I don't believe Cam Ward will allow Cam Ward to be a bust. I don't think I've ever covered a player that is so dedicated to his craft and works as hard and just eats, sleeps, and breathes football like he does. Because like KG, I think about, some of the all-time catastrophic quarterback busts like over the years. You guys like Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell. So some things that they had in common, like they had the physical tools, but terrible mental messes, right? Just not there mentally. And With Cam Ward, that's absolutely not going to be a problem. Like, you're getting someone who will only be thinking about his teammates and his playbook and throwing with his receivers. So, like, if Cam Ward fails at the next level, it's not going to be because of Cam Ward. It's going to be because of something else.
Well, I 1,000% agree there, and I want to take it a step further. I think most players that fail in the NFL, it's not because of necessarily them. I mean, the quarterback position is the most dependent position in the game. Pat Mahomes did not know the difference between cover 4 and cover 2 coming into the NFL. Guess who he got with that coached him up on that? Guess who he got with that sat him down and said, hey, before you play real live snaps in an NFL game, we need you to understand the difference between cover 3, cover 2. We need you to understand the difference between cover 1, cover 3, cover 2, cover 4, cover 4, cover 6. You need to understand these intricacies and what they look like, because that's what's going to tell you that. And he would not have had the career he had if he did not have a coach like Andy Reid. So I think that it's always about, especially for a quarterback, what you surround them with. A lot of people were talking about Ashton Genty and, oh, do you take a running back that high or do you not? And because, with a running back, there's more of a cherry on top than a foundation. I strongly disagree. Great players are your foundation. Great players are your foundation. But the thing about that is, Donno, you're a homeowner. If you came home tomorrow and it was just your foundation there, everything else that was built on top of the foundation completely either wiped out or flimsy, what would you say?
I would call my insurance company. I would not be very happy.
That's my point. This Cam Ward is a foundational piece. He's a hell of a foundation. Yeah. He's a very solid foundation. You can't say we don't need windows because we got a good foundation. What?
Yeah. Where are my windows?
Where are my windows? Where's my bathroom? Where's my sink? I need a sink just because I got a great foundation, but damn it, I need a place to cook my food. So, I think that Cam Ward is quintessential, hard worker, type A guy, team guy. He's all those things. Absolutely. And if he fails, it'll be on the team. But I think that that's the case a lot more than often with a lot of these guys where it's like, oh, man, they're a terrible bust. And you're like, okay, well, who did they put around that guy that was a Hall of Famer? Who did they put around him that was an all-pro? Who did they put around him that you look at and you say, that was a bad dude, and that bust brought him down?
Yeah, that's well said. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Amari Hampton as well, who was drafted 22nd overall, but those were the only 2 picks in the first round from the ACC. Who's going to be next? You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. I was watching the NFL draft on my Amazon Fire Stick 4K. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controllers, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Guys, you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out our other shows. Kenton and Grayson Boone host Locked On Wolfpack, taking you through all things NC State. I host Locked On Canes, taking you through all things Miami. So, of course, I was very invested with the number 1 overall pick last night. I think the Titans got themselves a great one. And I also think the Los Angeles Chargers got themselves a tremendous running back in Amari Hampton, the other ACC player that was taken. And Kenton, even people will take your word for it, because even as a Wolfpack enthusiast and former NC State defensive lineman, you still sing the praises of Amari Hampton. He's that good.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of those guys. It's not many, but every now and then I watch a guy play on offense where I'm like, retirement ain't the worst thing in the world. Hey, being on the other side, talking about the game, He is a Jim Harbaugh guy through and through. Yes, he has some wiggle to him and all those things, but I'm going to tell you, the two biggest things that I think about with him, and a lot of people got on me about that, he's a modern-day Earl Campbell take. I don't give a damn what y'all say. If you watch that young man play football and think about what the modern game has become in 2025, we have guys like Najee Harris thinking that they're elusive and shifty. That's what I mean by he's willing to run through people in a way that is not common in today's game. No.
Yeah.
With that being said, he's a Harbaugh guy. That's what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. Yeah. He doesn't look at offenses like this sophisticated, fancy thing where I need to get everybody in space and I need to get everybody the ball in space. He said, hey, we got more big, violent, nasty guys than you. We're going to let our big, violent, nasty guys be big, violent, and nasty. And you figure out how to stop them. And with an offensive line that includes Joe Alt, and you've got a guy like Amari Hampton running behind him, I'm going to tell you, that's dangerous to deal with, man. That's a real dangerous deal to deal with because, again, he to me is a very complete package at the running back position. And to me, obviously, outside of Genty, he has by far the highest floor of every running back in this class. Ceiling, I'd say the only running backs that are messing with his ceiling are also ACC guys who just have lower floors, like a Byshaw Tootin. That's the only other guy because of how today's game is, where I'm like, if Tootin goes to the right situation, he's got a pretty excellent ceiling. So, really and truly, when I talk about this young man, Amari Hampton, again, he's very humble, very much so the guy that's a hard worker, first one in, last one out type of guy. He's not a flashy. He's not he's not that type of guy. I tell people all the time, there are two archetypes of running backs in terms of personality. You got the one that got the grills and the very aggressive guy. He looks like a Chipotle bag with all the tattoos. And then you got the choir boys, the Travion Hendersons of the world. The Amari Hamptons. He's definitely on the choir boy side, which from a media perspective ain't bad for you either. So, I really and truly love that pick for the Chargers. And slipping at 22 as well. Oh my God,
yeah.
What a great get.
I didn't think he was going to get past 20. There were a lot of folks had him going to the Broncos at 20. So, and speaking of guys slipping, someone's going to get a steal in Donovan Ezaraku tonight because that was the other one. And it's funny because Kenton, when we did I think it was on our Wednesday show, I mentioned that the FanDuel odds over under of ACC players drafted in the first round. The over-under was 3.5. And I said it. I mean, hate to say it, but you smashed the under on that one. Yeah, but I thought it was going to be 3, not 2. Like, it was only 2. I thought Ezaraku was going to go in the first round. And so, it was, as people expected, it was the SEC and Big Ten show last night. Not a whole lot from the ACC, and the Big 12, got drafted. The Big 12 had a few more than we did. But, man, hopefully tonight we can right those wrongs.
Donno, I don't give a damn about writing those wrongs tonight, or tomorrow night, or anytime in the rookie mini camps. I care about what happens when these boys get on the field. Because I have seen, I'm gonna try to be calm. I have seen this tale again and again and again, where everybody says, oh, we're gonna draft a defensive lineman who doesn't have any sacks, but he's very lengthy. He's lengthy and he's fast.
Yeah.
A reporter, and this is one of the greatest foreshadowings I have ever heard of. Shamar Stewart, a young man from Texas A&M, defensive end, was drafted by the Bengals. And one of the Bengals reporters said, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow's jobs both just got a lot harder. Why would Joe Burrow's job get harder if you've just drafted a defensive end? I'm going to tell you something. Yeah. It was a Freudian slip. She just didn't know it yet. Because, again, he is the antithesis of Donovan Ezaraku. Donovan Ezaraku is a guy that's too small, he's too short, he's too this, he's too that. Turn on the tape. He terrorizes offensive lines. He terrorizes them. He makes some of these guys, sometimes it looks like offensive linemen's feet are stuck in mud sometimes. I have never watched Stewart and thought that same thing. Never. The only other guy in the first round that I would say, when he is at his peak, he is the same type of rusher. There are two other guys in the first round that I would say at their peak, same type of rusher. I would say Abdul Carter, and I would say James Pierce Jr. But with Abdul Carter, at his peak means the first 3 to 4 rushes of the game because his bag is not there yet. But he hasn't been a full-time edge long. It's understandable. James Pierce Jr. plays 13, 14, sometimes 25 snaps a game at most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Donovan is out there for 30 to 40 every game, whipping the wheels off folks. And we're like, it's not enough. He's too short. I am telling you, a steal is an understatement, Donno, because we're going to look back at this. People are talking about we're all going to look back and think, how did Shador get passed up? Donovan is the one that people are going to look back and say, what the hell were we thinking? What happened? What were we watching when we were like, oh, this guy that can win 1,000 different ways, he's not good enough. He's not, but I digress. Again, there are a bunch of very good guys from the ACC that are going to be picked tonight. Donovan is probably the best of that bunch.
And okay, so for Shador, he's probably getting taken 33rd tonight by Cleveland, right? Which would be ironic because if you're going to get drafted by a franchise like that, like at least if it was in the first round, right? That, hey, I'm getting my first round money, but I'm going to a terrible franchise. He's not going to get the first round, money. But do you think he's going to fall past 33? Because I don't.
I would hope so if I was Shador in his camp, because I know that they said there were certain places. Yeah. There were certain places that they would not play. Like, don't draft my son.
Yeah,
that's one of them. Don't look at my kid. Don't look.
Yeah.
Get somebody else to do it. Does he slip past 33? I say yes. I think that Deion has rubbed enough of the really bad teams the wrong way, and rightfully so. He's looking out for his boy, no different than the Mannings do. Because I guarantee you, dollars to donuts, when little old Arch come out, they're not going to say Arch will play for whoever drafts him. The Mannings have a history of, if the wrong team draft my boy, he'll sit. He's not going to do it. So, I don't think he gets drafted at 33 because, again, they've been the Sanders camp has been very clear that, hey, do not draft us if you are a poorly run franchise. And who could be a more poorly run franchise than the one who paid a DN that was begging for a trade, the largest contract for a defender ever, who traded away the most first-round picks in the history of the NFL in one trade for a quarterback that has objectively been god-awful. And this was after more extracurricular activities than we have seen get somebody suspended and whatnot in quite some time.
Right.
So, that's a terribly run franchise. And again, Deion has said, I don't want no bad run franchise drafting my son. And so if I'm the Browns, it's like, Donno, if a family said, I don't want no man that's making under $1 million a year to talk to my daughter, would you try to talk to their daughter? I wouldn't. I'm never going to be accepted there.
Speak for yourself, man. I make about $2 million a month.
Looks like me and David Locke got to get on the call. We need to do some renegotiating around this thing. I know Donno the sex appeal on the show, but I bring something, damn it. I bring something.
No, I'm talking about all my gambling winnings, of course. That's
okay. Well, never mind, David. I'm sorry. My apologies, Mr. Locke. I'm not a degenerate. I can't do it.
Yeah, like Floyd Mayweather. I had $600K on under 3.5 first-round picks for the ACC. I'm swimming in it today. Well, when we come back, we'll go from draft to the transfer portal. Syracuse, I think, improved their quarterback situation considerably. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. And of course, when you're looking for easy money, like under 3.5 first-round picks for the ACC, you get it at FanDuel.com. And the NBA playoffs are here. They're in full swing. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Do not miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thank you for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. So, I know that they lost a lot of weapons in their passing game, but I look at the Syracuse Orange, and I am taking them more seriously now for this upcoming season. They have a very tough schedule. We know that. But I'm taking Syracuse, and Syracuse is on Miami's schedule this year. Is NC State, are you on Syracuse's schedule as well this year?
I believe so. I believe NC State is playing Syracuse in 2025.
So, don't you look at Syracuse, in April, as far as we can look ahead, but they look more formidable with the potential of Steve Angeli, who I know has not been a full-time starter, but in the action that he got the last couple of years at Notre Dame has looked extremely productive. He's got a lot more career passing attempts than Ricky Collins, who I would imagine Fran Brown is still going to give Ricky an opportunity to compete in summer practices. So it's not as if he's going to hand the job to Angeli, but I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to think Angeli is probably going to win that job. Because if they were that sold on Ricky Collins, I don't feel like they make that move to bring Angeli in. So I'm taking Syracuse more seriously with Angeli. Maybe they can capture some of that Kyle McCord style magic, because a lot of us, you and me included, underrated Kyle McCord heading into last year.
So a couple of things. Number one, slight correction. NC State does not play Syracuse this year. But number two, this I don't think improves them as much as we believe.
Really?
I don't, because of the timing of it all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I think Ricky Collins was going to be some type of world beater to set the world on fire and be all these great things. But the problem with the way that this went down, I'm fairly certain, and I could be wrong. This is speculation. I tell y'all when I know something. I tell you when I'm speculating. Right now, I'm speculating. I would speculate that there had to be some promise of playing time right away. The problem with that is this. Donno, how many passes has Steve Angeli thrown to their receivers this spring so far?
Syracuse receivers, same as me, 0.
Okay. So congratulations. If you're listening to this show, you've thrown as many passes to Syracuse receivers as Steve Angeli. Congratulations. And that you've thrown. So now let's say that out loud. At this point in the ball game, right? Heading into, we are less than a week away from the month of May. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, you have thrown as many passes to the Syracuse receiving corps and pass catchers as Syracuse's starting quarterback would.
All right.
Or has up to this point. So I think that that's a little problematic, especially because I like Steve Angeli. I think he's good. I don't think that he's a world beater to the point where he dynamically changes you now, but I do understand this as a play for the future because Angeli has more eligibility after this year, right? I'm fairly certain he has at least one more year. That's what I'm saying. I'm fairly certain he has at least one more year after this year. So from that
2 years remaining. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I get it. You're saying, hey, this year we're not exactly punting, but we understand we had an uphill battle to fight anyway. Trevor Pena leaving made that battle a little bit steeper. Yeah. We know this is. We got a long way to go in a short time to get there, which we probably won't be able to bridge that gap. But what we can do is prepare and gear up for next year when, again, we've got our quarterback who's been in the system, knows the system. We've got a group of pass catchers that have caught passes from them. They know what's going on. They'll be going into not just an offseason, but that'll be year 2, in essence, of, hey, we're going to be playing with this quarterback again. But this year, I don't think that their passing game will be as formidable as it was with Kyle McCord because McCord was there for the spring. He was the guy.
Yeah,
that was it. He arrived on campus, and Gaston and Williams and Pena and not Grimes, LeQuentin
Meeks
Meeks. They were all catching passes from him in the fall or in the spring.
Well, I hope you're right about what you said because if Miami loses to them 2 years in a row, with the second one being at home this year, that Locked On Canes will just be me yelling into my microphone for 30 minutes. Why? Why Syracuse? Why is it always them? Oh, man.
I mean, listen, at least y'all got y'all guy in the winter. So even though he's hurt and banged up and not throwing, at least he's there. He's there seeing the offense, taking mental reps. They mean something. And he's taking the mental reps in that offense.
Yeah, and I saw an interview he did with it's more of a Georgia show, but they're still friends with Beck, because Beck, like, he hasn't been really available because he's injured. He was injured, hasn't been available to the Miami media yet. So I haven't got a chance to get to know him, but I was watching this hour-long interview that he did on YouTube recently, and he was kind of talking about like his impressions of Miami, the work he's doing at Miami, and it's, I the football IQ, like, I can see that it's high. I know that people like to, make their Carson Beck narratives and stuff, but you can tell he's a student of the game for watching him talk about ball for an hour, and that he's really passionate. He still sounds like passionate about Georgia, but passionate about his new team, Miami, as well. So I felt pretty good coming out. I want to see if I could see the name of that podcast so I can credit it. I was watching it this morning.
Well, either way you cut or slice it, I will not argue that Angeli the Cuse hurt Syracuse's quarterback room. Like, there's no argument there. And obviously, even with Angeli, I'm telling you, as a guy whose team played 4 quarterbacks 2 years ago, you're only one play away from needing another quarterback. You're only one play away. Right. So, even if Angeli is the guy out the gates, you are one bad fall, bad trip, bad step, bad hit away, and this is a very violent game away from Ricky Collins being the guy again. So it is better to have a situation where your backup has some experience in your offense and all that as well. So, I'm not saying it made him worse. I don't want anybody to hear this and say, "Oh, Kenton's hating Syracuse because he doesn't like Jackson." I adore Jackson. He's a very interesting guy. I want to get him to use wash rags. I've said that 1,000 times. We're gonna get him to stop putting hand to body. You got to use a wash rag in the shower. But I love me some Jackson Holger. I love me some Fran Brown. Again, stop the winners get washed thing. Even losers deserve a shower. But I just don't think that it makes their quarterback room exponentially better today. But I look at it like an offensive lineman looks at a bucket step. You lose ground to gain ground. I think that's what they're doing with their quarterback position per se.
Yeah, by the way, like, the only time you go like hand to body, the only time is if I'm at a hotel that doesn't like have, they all usually have washcloths and stuff.
Yeah,
but if you're in some situation where there's not, like a washcloth of it, then in case of emergency, you do what you got to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're on like a mini Naked and Afraid or something, and they're like, "Oh, you won a challenge, you get to shower, but no towel." Sure, you do what you got to do. But in regular everyday life, you put the soap on that damn rag. You rub the rag on the soap and you put it on your body. You don't just go hand to body. That's uncivilized. Our ancestors that we've evolved past that Neanderthalish activity.
And for anyone who's like wondering, why are these guys talking about this? This is like very inside Locked On. So it was probably like 4 months ago on the squad. Kenton Gibbs actually completely made Jackson Holzer aware that like washcloths are a thing. Like, he just didn't know, hand to bot, like he didn't know. And Kenton has not let that go to this day.
We were having a discussion about the winners get washed thing, and I said that the only thing that could be worse than that is washing up without a washcloth. And y'all all use washcloths, right? And everybody said, yeah. Except
and then Jackson
one,
was like, he was like, "What's a washcloth?"
Woo, good times, man. Good times.
By the way, the video I was watching Carson Beck on this morning was the Built for More podcast. It seemed like a good show. A couple guys from Georgia, so but they're talking to Beck about his past, his present, and his future. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. Hope everyone has an awesome weekend. Let's get some more ACC players drafted, preferably rounds 2 and 3. But day 3, I'll take that as well. Rounds 4 through 7 will be on Saturday. Rounds 2 and 3 tonight, Friday night. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.